assistance programs, and so that we can train people to understand what the signals are that somebody is becoming involved with drugs. Their work performance is down, their absenteeism, their non-attention to the job. And instead of just firing that person, we need for employers to be able to say, now look, this is the record, and maybe to, at that point, to force a confrontation that will lead to improving that situation. Now, on the police side, we're finding that we have really a reduction in the number of officers. We have fewer officers than we had 10 years ago, and more responsibility. And so the biggest need in the police department is for more person power. I won't call it manpower. And there are some things we can do. We find that officers are being asked to do a number of things that probably aren't directly related. For example, if an officer picks up a mental patient, then they're out of zone during the entire period of time, most of the time, because they have to go, and on the current system, they have to stay with that patient, even if they're at the hospital site. And so we need to be sure that we have the manpower that we have on the street as much as possible. We need to be sure that if there are jobs that can be done by trained personnel within the office complex, that we act efficiently. But we have to have enough officers to handle our needs. And at the current time, we really don't. And if you go in a police station, they'll tell you that their biggest need is for more personnel. They're not even, I mean, they talk about their salaries, but the first thing they talk about is simply the need to have enough people to make it safe. I mean, you got officers. If I go into a police station, for example, and say, well, how many people here have a second job? Well, it's almost everybody, in that station. So we're working long shifts, then working a second job, and then not enough people, and we're making a situation that's unsafe for them and for us.
Very good. Now, in 1987, I think you finished number 3 out of a list of 9 candidates for the same office. Now, in this last minute or two that we've got left, how do you find the reception in terms of your candidacy now in 1991 compared to your candidacy in 1987? What are people telling you in reference to encourage you or perhaps discourage you or whatnot?
Well, we're getting a great response, and really the 1987 campaign proved that I was an effective countywide candidate, and that's something I had to prove because I only represented a small district. And so now when Mr. Bredesen first announced, people sort of were discouraged with Mr. Boner's performance and were willing to say, okay, well, we'll sort of let you do that. What we're finding now is people look at both of us and realize that that is the choice. Then what they are saying is, we're really impressed with your knowledge of the government, with your experience, with your effectiveness in some of these areas that I've mentioned. And so we have great support in all 35 councilmanic districts. We're getting an extremely good response from across this government as people realize, among other things, that that my commitment has always been to Metro. I mean, mayor is the only job that I am interested in, only political office that I'm interested in. I don't want to be your governor. I don't want to be your senator. I don't want to be your congressman. And some of the problems that people have had in government come from always just looking to the next election, not paying attention to what's going on at home.
Very good. Let me thank you for coming by and giving us that information this morning, Mrs. Nixon, in reference to your candidacy. And let me encourage you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Good morning.